Daniel Francis Boyle was born on the 20th of October, 1956 in Radcliffe, England. Like directors Martin Scorsese, John Woo, and M. Night Shyamalan, Danny Boyle was raised religious and was going to become a priest before changing his mind and getting into the arts, studying English and drama at Bangor University in Wales. He then spends about a decade in the theatre industry, including directing 5 productions for the Royal Shakespeare Company. Danny Boyle's love for film began when he first saw one of Mr. Robinson's favorites, Apocalypse Now. Danny Boyle's first film is Shallow Grave. Not only is this Boyle's first film, but also a popular choice for him, Ewan McGregor's. The film even made its way onto the Criterion Collection. It follows a group of flatmates who come across a lot of money and have to kill to keep it. 2 of the flatmates become crazed about the money and try to kill the third mate, Alex, played by Ewan McGregor. This film introduces us to some of Boyle's tropes, the main one being the use of male protagonists, as 2 of the 3 characters in the film are male. I believe he uses these in these films because he has a better understanding of how a man would react to these strange situations, such as being a part of a murder, being tortured, as seen in Slumdog Millionaire, and living in a zombie apocalypse, shown in 28 Days Later. A second trope seen in the film is a reference to Scottish culture. As he is part Scottish, in multiple scenes you are able to see a bottle of Iron Brew, a popular Scottish drink, and a common feature in his films, Ewan McGregor is also part Scottish, with many of the scenes in his films being filmed in Scotland. Slumdog Millionaire, Danny Boyle's most acclaimed film, follows a young man on the Indian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Once he makes it to the final question, the police take him in for interrogation, and he tells us about his life story in a Bildungsroman, coming-of-age type of way. Once again, a male protagonist, but introducing us to the second trope, the odds being stacked against the protagonist. The odds the young man survives the slums of India and makes his way to the show and makes to the final question are slim, but he manages to do so. 127 Hours, Danny Boyle's second most acclaimed film behind Slumdog Millionaire, is the real story of a man named Aron Ralston, being played by James Franco. Ralston is an avid hiker and climber, and goes to a canyon he has hiked before, but unluckily, while climbing, gets his arm stuck between a rock and the canyon wall. Ralston fights off the elements, loneliness, and limited water and food, somehow surviving and returning to civilization. Lots of Boyle's tropes are on display here. The male protagonist of Aron Ralston, flashback sequences and hallucinations due to the limited water and food, and odds being stacked against him as he is stuck with his arm between the rock and the wall. 28 Days Later, Danny Boyle's take on a zombie apocalypse follows Jim, a biker who wakes up a week after the disaster started, clueless, injured, and completely unprepared. Even with the odds stacked against him, with the help of a woman in the army and a few cans of Iron Brew, he survives. Danny puts all tropes on display in this film. Male protagonist of Jim, reference to Scottish culture with multiple Iron Brew shots, and the final scene being filmed in Scotland. Odds stacked against the protagonist as he is clueless and wakes up injured. Flashback sequences to his life before the apocalypse started, and the theme of perseverance resulting from physical encounter or trauma. This theme is in each film mentioned. Shallow Grave, Alex escapes death by his flatmates and sneaks away with the money for himself. Slumdog Millionaire, Jamal escapes the mafia's child labor and wins $1 million rupees. 127 Hours, Aron gets his arm stuck but perseveres and gets back to society. And finally, in 28 Days Later, Jim, who wakes up after his bus crash and fights off the zombies to survive the apocalypse. This has been a autobiography of the great auteur Danny Boyle.